There were some comments on my Firefly 8 SE review that asked about the slow motion mode, so let's check that out. The Firefly 8 SE can record 1080p at 120 frames per second or 720p at 240 frames per second. There are two ways of achieving slow motion with this camera, and both have slightly different results. First of all, if you're in the regular record mode and you choose 1080p 120 or 720p 240, then the video will play back at normal speed with audio, and you'll need to slow it down in post-production. I liked using this mode because, incidentally, seagulls sound terrifying when their audio is played in slow-mo. Check it out. The other way of going about this is choosing the slow motion mode in the menu. The difference is that the slow motion mode does not record audio, and the camera automatically slows down the video for you. So for example, the 1080p mode is slowed down to 25% speed. That way you don't need to do any processing in post-production. The slow motion modes do a pretty good job of recording, but there is no image stabilization in these modes. Also, they do require bright daylight. So check this out, this is the 1080p at 120 frames per second, and the video quality is overall pretty good. If we step down to 720p 240, there are a little bit more compression artifacts, but still nonetheless it is usable. I'd stick to 1080p for the most part unless you need that super slow motion, in which case 720p is there, it just does have a significant loss of detail over 1080p. You are one angry bird. The other thing I wanted to show you today is this camera's zoom option. So this camera does have digital zoom, but it's not an on-the-fly zoom. You have to set it before you start recording. It can't be changed during recording. It's a digital zoom, which means using it results in a slight loss of image quality. For example, this is a wide-angle shot, and then let's look at the shot with the camera set to the narrow field of view. Of course, using the digital zoom in 4K mode is kind of a moot point because once you zoom into the sensor, you're no longer recording in 4K. Unfortunately, the digital zoom cannot be activated in 1080p 60 or 30 mode, even with the gyro stabilization turned off, but you can use it in 1080p 120, as you can see with this wide and narrow shot. Lastly, let's check out distortion correction mode. The distortion correction mode only seems to work in 1080p 60 and 30, and it does a pretty good job of correcting for distortion, but as you can see by this grid here, it's a little bit overzealous on the corners. This grid should be made of straight lines. Overall though, it does work pretty well, and it doesn't really sacrifice much on image quality. Also, it does work at the same time as image stabilization. So, were those seagulls terrifying, or what? Let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.